Hi everyone, this is Cheryl McQueen, guest designer with Bello's Designs. Today I will be providing some tips for when you need to make a card quickly, perhaps for a last minute birthday you forgot about or just needing to send a card to a friend who is having a hard day. Let's start with looking at some quick options for your card base. One of the quickest and easiest card bases will be using a pre-printed cardstock. One of my favorites is the Ink Drops cardstock by Card Consortium. Also, the Dreamscape Color Burst collection by Lavinia Stamps are beautiful cardstock sheets that are great for backgrounds. Both are available on the Bello's Designs website. Here are a few cards that I cut from my Ink Drops cardstock. The nice thing about this cardstock is that it is printed on both sides. It gives you options on which one you might want to use. I cut all of my art-based cards to be 4 3/4 inches by 3.5 inches, but of course you can cut them to any size that works for you. Another option, if you are an alcohol inks artist, is to use some of your ink backgrounds that you've created. As was outlined in Nick's Knack's video tutorial from an inspiration from Linda Albin, you can scan or make copies of your alcohol ink backgrounds that you then print out on your cardstock. So here's one that I printed out on my copier. I like to copy mine usually with my copier set to a light setting. My alcohol ink designs tend to be very bold and bright, and I like to lighten them up some so that my stamp design will show up well on the card. Of course, any pre-printed cardstock that you have on hand will work. This is an example of some stock scrapbook paper basically that I have had in my supplies for a long time. These will work great as well for backgrounds. The final idea is to just make up a bunch of backgrounds to keep on hand for emergencies. For me, this is easier said than done because I don't like to wait around after I make a background because the ideas just float around in my head and I have to do something with them immediately. But having a stash always comes in handy. So as you can see, I've just made up a couple different types using different techniques for backgrounds. So let's get started. I'm going to show you how to make a quick card with the pre-printed cardstock that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and use one of these designs here. I think I'll use this one. I would say that the most important thing to keep in mind when you're doing a last-minute quick card is to keep it simple. You don't want to be adding a lot of other elements to your card when you are needing a quick card. You might want to add in a moon, but don't take time to add in a lot of landscape or background. Try to make your design one that is more of a floating design. Also keep 2 or 3 designs as the ones that you will use when you need a last minute card. Make up 2 or 3 examples and go with them when you're ready to make. That way you don't have to come up with a design on the fly. So here are examples of my favorites that I use as go-to designs. These cards only use about 3 to 4 stamps. I also keep it simple by only stamping in black ink. I like to use the fairies because they're very easy to make a floating type background where you don't need to add a lot of landscaping bases to them. To make our card, we're going to go ahead and use the Ink Drops Dusk paper. This comes in the 12 by 12 inch size and a 6 by 6 inch size. I love this because you get a very large variety of different papers. Like I said, it's two-sided. So you've got a lot of options in this pack of different colors and swirls and wonderful things. So we're going to use this. I've already cut my card to the 4 3/4 to 3.5 inch size. The Stamps that we're going to use today are going to be 4 of the Lavinia stamps. The first one that we're going to use will be the LAV 166 Dandelions. Then we are going to use the LAV 360, the Hanging Lanterns. We're going to use the Fairy Foragers, and I think we'll go ahead and use the one with the lantern today. And our final stamp will be the Orchard Grass. This is LAV 672. The inks that we're going to use today will be very basic. We're going to do a moon mask on our card, and I just have a little 1.5 inch circle here that we will use on our card. For the glow around that, I'm going to go ahead and use Distress Ink Stormy Sky. And then I always like to add just a little shadow kind of around the edges. It's like a frame to me. And I'm going to go ahead and use the Distress Ink Chipped Sapphire. I will be using the Ranger Archival Ink Jet Black. This is an acid-free permanent ink. That's what we'll be using for doing our stamps. So let's go ahead and get started with what we're going to do. So the first thing will be to do our moon mask. So I'm just going to grab my little dauber here, put a little ink on it. Going to place my moon where I like it to be, the mask, and then just lightly go around the edges. I just want to give the idea of a little halo around the moon. Alright, then we remove our mask. So we've got that. So that's really the only background, if you want to say, that I'm going to add to the background that we already have. I like the little sparkles and spots on the top of this card, so I thought that this would make a really nice look for that. So let's go ahead and start out by putting our fairy in first. So I'm going to take my fairy with the lantern. I'm going to go ahead and ink it up over here on my ink pad. Be sure that you dab your stamp onto your ink pad. Don't wipe it back and forth. You get a much cleaner and neater amount of ink on there. Okay, so I'm just going to have her kind of go across the moon. Just press her down there. And lift up. Okay, so I would like to go ahead and do some dandelions. So I'm going to ink up the first one. Make sure that we get plenty of ink on there. You can tell if you're got enough ink because you'll see the shiny look of the ink on the stamp. So I think we're going to go ahead and probably have this one, and actually I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of paper underneath, that way I don't get the ink all messy on my cutting plate, my stamping board. I'm going to have this one go just a little bit off to the side. So we'll just stamp that down. Alright, and then let's switch out for one of the other dandelions. Same thing, just ink it up. Get a lot of good ink on there. just a little bit lower over here, maybe closer to this side. Press down to get a nice crisp image. And then our final dandelion. Get it inked up really well. And we'll put it over on this side. Nice solid crisp image there. All right, let's go ahead and do our hanging lanterns. Ink that up really well as well. And just have a few of those coming down. I kind of like to have a little bit over the moon. So we'll put one there. Let's go ahead and do a little second generation, a little bit lighter one in there. A little more ink on. Have a long one come down over on this side. Maybe just a little angle here. All right. Now we're just going to put a little bit of field grass, the orchard grass, and to fill in down here a little bit around the edges, down at the bottom. Give it a little bit of an anchor there. So let's put one coming across here, and we'll do a second generation one there. Kind of coming at an angle this way, just to give it a little bit of an anchored base. All right, now we're just going to put our little frame around with our chipped sapphire. I've always liked doing a frame. I just feel like it kind of holds the whole picture all together when you have just a little bit of a darker frame around the outside edges. All right, and there we go. So you see how quick a make that was? That didn't take very long at all. And again, we're trying to keep it very simple. We don't want to have to mess with putting in a lot of background elements. So the moon was the only one that we did, and then we used the one color with the black ink. Now to finish our card out, we're going to do it real quickly. We're just going to take a frame. The frame I make to be 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. And then we're going to just take our card that we made. And a little adhesive. I love the runner tape because it's a really quick way to mount your art. And we're just going to center that in the middle of our frame card. And then we'll do the same thing and just add it to our card base. And the card bases I usually make those, I just take an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper of cardstock and cut it in half and then fold those halves into the card base. All right, and there we go. We have got our card created in a pretty quick time frame. It didn't take but just maybe 10 minutes to go ahead and get that done. Main thing I think that to remember is be sure to keep it simple. Simple is the best way for a quick make card. And as I said before, just keep a couple of samples on hand so that you can quickly go to that sample and say, oh, this is something I know I can do quick. I hope this tutorial was helpful to you, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.